Anastasia and Petra, Bethany, Oleg and Jessica. Well, Dr. Richard Fitton is with us, lecturer in energy efficiency in the School of the Built Environment at Salford Uni. Very good afternoon to you, or evening to you now, Richard. You heard Richard, actually, when we heard Rowan Bridges' package a little bit earlier on today about the indoor house, the house in a lab. Also, Lisa Fenton, who co-founded a company called Woodsmoke that does bushcraft and wilderness survival training. She's also a lecturer in outdoor studies at the University of Cumbria. And Caroline McCann, who is a scout leader in Greater Manchester. She's just back from running some mountain leader training in Scotland, and she's been battling snow this evening herself. Thank you all very much for being with us. Well, Caroline, I'll start with you in that case. You're trying to get home in the snow, but prepared to sleep in your van if you have to. You've done that once this week already.
Yeah, Tuesday night I had a meeting over the hill, and I live in a small village, and there was no way I was going to get home. But luckily I'd taken some stuff with me, so rather than risk having an accident, I just holed down somewhere safe, got the sleeping bag out, made a brew, and waited it out, and went out in the morning after the gritters had been through.
Is there a tiny part of you that loves it when that happens?
Yeah, I love sleeping in my van, actually. I've got a little bed in there and a stove, and it's like it's a little home from home for me. I work away a lot, so it's my little bedroom on the wheels, so I never have to worry about finding a hotel or a B&B. I can just park up and open the back and put the stove on and make a cup of tea. It's always good. I
sincerely hope my husband is not listening to this, because he will say, there you go, Sarah, that's why we need one of these kind of vans. He's been asking me for one for a long time.
Oh, so cosy.
Don't. Lisa is with us too. Lisa, you had a 4-year apprenticeship under Ray Mears, so if anybody knows how to survive under these sort of conditions, it's you.
Yep, that's true.
Well, gosh, so what did he teach you? Give us your absolute top Ray Mears tip for this particular kind of weather.
Oh, God, there's too many. I suppose probably just prevention is better than cure. Being prepared, knowing what you're doing before you go out is probably just the best tip. And within that, there's obviously loads and loads of knowledge and information that's useful.
We will get you to impart as much of it as possible. But for those of us then, as Lisa has rightly said, that have sensibly stayed inside today, Richard, what should we be doing if you are in the house? How do you keep warm without, having the gas on continuously?
Hi, I think first of all it's just important to keep warm. Don't try and save energy on a day like this when it's -5 outside. It's not the time to save energy. But I think what you can do is just heat the parts of the home that you're actually occupying. So keep your curtains closed and things like this. And you use the draft excluder, use the things that you've got in the house already. It's too late now to be thinking about insulation and things like this. That's for next year maybe. But I think the main thing is just to make the best of the heat that you've got, and just to heat where you are. Wrap up warm and heat where you are. And
I turned off the radiator in the sort of back kitchen place a couple of days ago, and then I went down to get some socks that had been lying in the tumble dry there, and they were frozen solid just in a couple of days. So that's what happens downstairs in my house if you turn off the radiator. I mean, it's pretty extraordinary for most of us, actually, what we've been going through over the last few days. Every part of the UK has now had a touch of it. Are we quite practical, Richard, in your experience, or are we utterly clueless?
I think that we have quite a poor standard of housing stock in the UK, which doesn't support this kind of weather.
Right.
And if you look at the building that I work in, for instance, represents about a quarter of the housing stock in the UK, and it's quite a poor performing building. It's just no insulation, solid brick walls, and about 3% of them have been insulated. So our housing stock really isn't cut out for weather like this. And our average winter temperature is about 5 degrees. And when I came in then, it was about -5 in the car. So that could more or less double your heating bill for the day.
So what's the best advice then? Just hunker down in one room?
I think, just
times like this.
Keep warm where you need to be warm. And if you can.
So nothing wrong with going to bed at 7 o'clock at night, getting your socks on in bed and just pulling the duvet over.
Absolutely not. So I think the World Health Organization says a healthy temperature for sleeping is between 17 and 20. So heat your bedroom before you go to bed, and you'll be okay.
And just, Caroline, you mentioned sleeping in your van. We've talked. I mean, there are people listening to this who may still be trapped in their cars, and we've talked to quite a few people on this programme who have been. And I kind of frightened myself yesterday because I thought, blimey, I just wouldn't like that at all, especially when it goes dark. So if for any reason you can't keep your engine running, what are your options? I mean, you know, everyone says, oh, take a big coat and a spade in the back, but if you haven't done that, what's the next plan?
Well, yeah, it is about planning, really. It's about making sure that you have got a few spare bits and pieces with you. And, you know, in the winter, most people do wear a big coat anyway. So if you haven't got enough fuel to keep the engine running all night, or you don't want to, which is probably environmentally better for us, there's a few things we can do. So cold air sinks. So when you have had the heating running for a little while, the hot air is going to lift. So get your feet up. Don't put your feet in the footwell. Get
Great
up onto the back
advice.
seat and kind of lie out flat or curl up in a fetal position if it's getting really chilly. But get your feet up, because that's the first thing that's going to go cold. If you've got a coat on and you're still feeling chilly, put your hood up. You know, a lot of your heat is going to go out of your head. And even if you've got a hat on, just putting your hood up from your coat is going to help a lot. If you've got gloves in your pocket, even though you're inside the car, pop your gloves on. You lose a lot of heat from conduction, so whatever's touching something else is going to lose some of the heat from your body. So if you are touching the remote control for the or the controls for the radio, or if you're touching your steering wheel, keep your gloves on, because then you're not going to be sapping heat from those little extremities.
I guarantee everybody who's driving now, and I think there are probably a lot less people driving now than normally because they've tried to get home, but I guarantee everyone's now doing a stock take of what's in their car at the moment. And because I certainly did while you were speaking, and I thought, great, I've got a massive rug in my boot, so I could do the old Cleopatra. I could just wrap myself in the rug.
Absolutely, yeah. Wrap yourself up. And, you're just insulating against the cold air and the cold things that you're touching. Even the seats of your car, if you've got fabric seats, they're going to be a little bit warmer than leather seats. But if you've got leather seats, you need to protect yourself, because they'll be drawing the heat from you as soon as they get cold. So, put something between you and the seats. And if that's a bit of carpet out of the boot, if it's the dog's blanket or the dog's bed, sit on it. You need to protect these parts that are touching other things.
And Lisa, just in company with that, I suppose if you're in your car and you've no petrol, or you can't heat it, and you can see a house light, then maybe you could attempt to reach it. But setting off from your car in the hope of finding help could be pretty dangerous.
Yeah, I wouldn't set off from your car unless there really was something close by that you thought that you definitely were going to make it to, because once you're out there as well, and you're in snow, you're going to get wet. And if it's dark and you're starting to get wet, you could get very cold very quickly. And if hypothermia sets in, you could start to become a bit disorientated. So it depends really on what sort of distance you're talking about, and you'd have to make those judgment calls on the ground. But I mean, the advice Caroline's just given is all excellent advice. And to add to that, I would say if there was more than one of you, cuddle up, keep your body.
What if it's
heat.
a car share from work? There could be all kinds of issues there.
It could be interesting, but you'll survive. And things like you were saying about having your blanket and just get inside it. Just be aware not to breathe into your clothes, because your breath has moisture in it, and you don't want to introduce moisture close to your body.
See that straight away. When I walk my dogs in the morning, I'm doing that all the time, so I shouldn't be doing that.
No, I mean, probably you're quite well ventilated at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But people who are used to being outdoors are used to ventilating their clothing and adjusting their clothing so they don't sweat. The last thing you want to do is overheat or sweat, because you don't want any moisture near your body, because that will then freeze and cool you down, any kind of damp. So going out of your car is immediately going to introduce you to two major factors in hypothermia, which is wind and wet, as well as cold. So it's something to not take lightly. And if you're walking through deep snow, then obviously your feet are going to get wet if you're not wearing the appropriate clothing. So most of us outdoors folk are going to be wearing appropriate clothing. Most people who have just got in their car to get to work or something are not. And your extremities are really important to keep warm, as I think Caroline mentioned. Mm-hmm.
Richard, what if the power goes out? It wouldn't be like me to go worst case scenario. I think I'm in good company there, because Tony's a bit of an apocalyptic type as well. But what happens if the power goes out in your house?
So the majority of the houses in the UK are heated by gas boilers, but unfortunately the control systems within them run on electricity. So if electricity does go off, you might find that you actually lose your gas heating as well. And there's not a great deal you can actually do about that. And I think the talk today has been more about gas shortages than electric shortages as well. There isn't a great deal you can do. You can if you're expecting it, you can heat up the house first and kind of rely on the house acting as a battery. But really, there's not a great deal you can do. Just get in a blanket,
put a hat on and get in bed.
Absolutely, yeah.
Candles, though, the candles were mentioned the other day because obviously you need them for light, but also for heat. Somebody, Caroline, texted in to say he keeps a candle in his car because they give off an inordinate amount of heat, a surprising amount of heat. So if you're stuck, and assuming it's safe to light a candle in a car, I guess if you run out of petrol, there's no fire risk. And what do you make of that, either Caroline or Lisa? Would Ray Mears approve of a tea light?
I don't know, but certainly a candle would really heat up a small space. It would keep the moisture out of the air a bit. I know that you could carry one of those sort of lantern candles, so it's inside something.
Yeah.
And that could well help.
No naked flame, but then you don't get the heat, do you? If it's behind glass, you won't get as much heat.
Won't get as much heat, no.
I know some people in their camper vans make little makeshift kind of storage heaters out of candles with terracotta plant pots. And if you've got 2 or 3 household candles on a plant pot tray with a terracotta pot over the top, the heat from the candles gradually heats the terracotta up. So even when the candle's gone out...
A lot of planning if you're just going down the shops, isn't it?
You're not going to be doing this just going to and from the office, but certainly if you've got a little camper van, that's one way of using a candle, of heating up something else and then using it to store the heat.
Yeah.
But I guess it's about just planning. If you remembered a candle, surely you would have remembered some fleece clothing and a waterproof jacket as well. So you might not be in such a bad situation.
Yeah, I did. There's a text here, and he sent a few in. This guy, I don't know who he is, but he's just said, "Oh, here we go again. 5 Live teaching grannies how to suck eggs." But actually, I've learnt a lot during this. This business about keeping your feet in the air because heat rises in the car and stuff like that. I mean, who knows? There could be someone listening to this, and we could help them out tonight.
You never know. The other thing to think about is your legs. A lot of people neglect any insulation on their legs. They're very busy putting jumpers and jackets on. But actually, the biggest heat exchanger in your body is your thigh muscle. It's really important that you keep the tops of your legs warm as well, and that will keep your core temperature up. So if you have got a blanket and it's only a small one, think about wrapping it around your thighs. If you've got 4 layers on top and only a pair of trousers on, it's really worth keeping that top part of your legs legs warm and covered too.
There you go. That's I bet your granny didn't know that, Texter. Richard, in terms of what we can do now, obviously, for planning for next year and all of that, we always say, don't we, gosh, we really must get that loft insulated or et cetera, et cetera. And I know that this kind of weather only happens once in a blue moon, but it would save you a fortune and you can get it done for free, can't you?
Yeah, there's still plenty of schemes that allow for free loft insulation, so that's going to save you around, on average, kind of 2-bedroom terrace house, about 20% of your fuel bills. So not to be sniffed at for free. But there's all sorts of things you can do. So one of my areas of research is looking at soft fabrics and curtains and carpets and things like that. So if you're closing your curtains across a window will save you about 14% of the energy going through that window. Closing it when it's over a radiator will save you about 40%. Different carpets will save you kind of 10-15% as well. So there's lots you can do without going down to B&Q in essence. So yeah.
Gosh,
there's
I'm terrible. I never close my curtains to stop that kind of thing from happening. I've got old wooden floors. It's a big old creaky 150-year-old little cottage, and the downstairs bit, which is it's one of those little tiny ones that's on 3 levels, the downstairs bit is like an absolute freezer box. Yep. But I'm guessing I should just avoid the downstairs in this kind of weather altogether. Just don't go there.
I would. Yeah.
It's unfortunate we have to eat.
Here's a tip. Nigel in Llanelli.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Thank you.
Good.
Put on a pair of socks, then plastic bags around the socks to insulate them, then another pair of socks on top. Yeah. Okay. Someone else says never light a candle in a car in a small unventilated area. But I guess you could leave the... Oh, no, it's counterintuitive, this, to leave the window open a crack, isn't it? But if you leave the window open on the side that the wind's not blowing, maybe. Anyone? Caroline, Lisa?
Yep. I always leave a little tiny crack in the top of my passenger window just so you've got a little bit of proper ventilation and it gets rid of any nasty fumes that would that would render you unconscious, which are never good. I'm not sure that a candle will give off enough to take anybody out overnight, but you never know. I guess it's better to be safe than sorry.
Depends. I might go the whole hog and take one of those massive ones you see in church.
Or 2 or 3.
Yeah. Like a lighthouse.
Brilliant. Somebody then has just texted to say, how do you afford a 150-year-old cottage? Is that because you're on a big BBC salary? No, I'm renting it. Thank you very much for asking. It's none of your business anyway. But listen, we are only going to have to go through this for another couple of days, aren't we, guys? So it's worth just bearing in mind that really if we don't have to go outside, that we should probably stay where we are. But I do worry a little bit, because I've got a little one at this time of year, that I'm either overdressing him or underdressing him at this time of year. Does anybody have advice for small children, particularly when you're putting them outside?
Oh, lots of layers, and then if they're looking a bit pink, you can just peel one off.
Yeah.
And then they'll feel a bit more comfortable. And then as soon as they start looking a bit pale, pop one back on again.
Okay, Caroline, you were going to say
as well.
Pardon?
Lots of food as well.
Oh, well, that's absolutely not a problem in my case.
Right.
Kids are amazingly resilient in the cold. I do a lot of work with scouts. It's skills for life, getting kids out there doing stuff and letting them learn for themselves.
Yes, indeed. You were up with a load in the Cairngorms, weren't you, last week? It was -18.
Absolutely. We had scout leaders out who were training to then be able to take young people out on the hill and give them the skills, so that then they're the ones that are taking the future generation through and looking after themselves and others in the hills. So.
And just very quickly before we go, Richard, while we're on clothing, where do you stand on pyjamas?
Wear them. Yeah, nothing wrong with wearing them. It'll save your heating bill.
Oh,
yeah.
Winciette.
It's that serious, everybody. It's time for pyjamas. Richard, thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you, Caroline.
Cheers. Thanks, Caroline.
Thank you,
Thank you, guys. That's pretty much it from us. You're back Monday.
I am.